A dense pillar of light descended from the sky, completely enveloping Lin Dong, though he could still see everything outside with perfect clarity. Tang Xinlian, as meticulous as ever, knew that Lin Dong did not wish to reveal his possession of an ancestral talisman. Thus, while requesting his help, she ensured that every potential exposure was concealed. Lin Dong, we can only trap this alien demon general for now. To fully subdue and seal it, we'll need the power of the Ancestral Talisman. Just focus on unleashing its strength. The formation's energy will lend you support. From here on, it's up to you. Tang Xinlian's voice, laced with urgency, reverberated within the light pillar. The alien demon aura, an energy unique to the alien demons, wasn't native to this world and was notoriously hard to handle. This trait contributed to the alien demon's fierce resilience. Tang Xinlian and her team already faced a significant power gap against the wolf demon general. Managing to trap it was a formidable feat. Lin Dong nodded slightly in response. Wasting no time, he sat cross-legged, feeling relieved to act without fear of being noticed. From the crown of his head surged a deep, nearly bottomless black light, as mysterious as it was formidable. A stark contrast to the sinister coldness of the alien demon aura, making coexistence impossible between the two energies. The black light swirled outward, forming a rotating black hole. A devouring force spread, and energy particles from the surrounding luminous pillar were drawn and swallowed into it. Boom! The black hole emerged, and Lin Dong's palm clenched fiercely. In an instant, radiant thunder light gathered at his hand, coiling around him like countless lightning serpents. At this moment, he embodied a sovereign of thunder, radiating majesty. The black light and thunder rays merged wildly, sending waves of terrifying energy rippling outward with astonishing intensity. High in the sky, Tang Xinlian observed the black lightning energy gathering within the light pillar with a grave expression. Her jade-like hands clenched involuntarily. Xinlian, can we truly rely on his strength? An elder from the Flame Deity Palace muttered. Although they'd witnessed Lin Dong's formidable power before, the wolf demon general was leagues above Huachan and Sushtou. Even with the full force of the Flame Deity Palace, they'd only managed to trap the wolf demon general through Tang Xinlian's near-perfect coordination. Other Flame Deity Palace elders shared similar apprehensions. If Lin Dong couldn't deliver the final blow, all their efforts would be in vain. Tang Xinlian's slender eyes narrowed at the elder's doubts. A faint smile played on her delicate face. When Master told me that we might have to rely on Lin Dong in this contest, I was skeptical too. But he's proven time and again that he's capable of creating miracles. Now, I believe in him. The elders exchanged glances, looking somewhat perplexed. Tang Xinlian noticed their expressions and flushed slightly, snapping, "What are you all thinking?" They chuckled awkwardly, quickly changing the subject. Despite her youth, Tang Xinlian standing in the Flame Deity Palace was no less than theirs. Meanwhile, the black lightning within the pillar grew even more volatile. The sheer force of it made the 4 Flame Deity Palace elders at the perfect completion of the Death Mystique stage pause in silent awe. The power of the Ancestral Talisman was undeniably potent, though it still fell short when compared to a Moluo. Black and silver lightning crackled around Lin Dong. Suddenly, he looked up, one eye black as the night, a swirling black hole within, devouring all it beheld, while the other eye glowed with electric light, as if birthing a world of thunder and storms. Go! Lin Dong's primordial energy surged, and he thrust his palms forward. A black and a silver dragon spiraled out from his palms, roaring as they soared, crashing into the towering energy pillar surrounding them. A faint hum filled the air. As these mighty forces poured in, the energy pillar grew wilder, casting flashes of black and silver lightning across the enormous formation in the sky. In the center of the array, the wolf demon general flapped its golden demonic wings, brandishing overwhelming demonic energy in a fierce struggle against the 4-symbol spirit. Yet, with the stalemate wearing on, the general was slowly gaining the upper hand. The wolf demon general launched a powerful punch, unleashing overwhelming demonic energy that morphed into countless ferocious wolf heads. They collided fiercely with the glowing silhouette of the azure dragon spirit, creating shockwaves so intense that the dragon's image seemed to waver slightly. Haha, is this your last resort? Pathetic. The wolf demon general laughed wildly, his wings of dark energy beating as waves of demonic force surged forward, each attack fiercer than the last. But just as his laughter faded, his eyes narrowed. The four symbol spirits lunged again, this time with streaks of black and lightning unexpectedly shooting from their massive mouths. The two colors merged into chains of interwoven black and lightning, which wrapped tightly around him. Hmph! The wolf demon general's gaze turned icy, releasing a surge of alien demonic aura, intending to erode the chains. However, the aura clashed with a harsh, screeching sound against the chains, which only seemed to tighten around him. This shift made the wolf demon general's face twist in anger. Yet, experienced as he was, he quickly adjusted. His golden wings unfurled, releasing golden markings that peeled off and floated away. As the markings fell, his body began to expand at an alarming speed. Boom! In a matter of moments, his body grew to nearly 1,000 feet, a demonic force billowing around him like an apocalypse incarnate. Creak, creak. As he expanded, the massive black lightning chains groaned under the strain, visibly struggling to hold him. Above, Tang Xinlian and her allies watched with rising tension. Though Lin Dong had amplified his Ancestral Talisman's power through their formation, suppressing the wolf demon general was proving difficult. There was little more they could do. Everything now depended on Lin Dong's own strength. Lin Dong, you can do this, Tang Xinlian murmured. Her hands clenched as she gazed intently at the figure within the light pillar. She knew that despite possessing 2 ancestral talismans, Lin Dong's strength was only at the perfect completion of the life mystique stage, not enough to fully wield both talismans' power. Boom! Lin Dong, his expression calm and resolute, struck again. His palms unleashed 2 beams, imbued with devouring and thunder powers, which roared into the formation. If one looked closely, they would see the veins bulging in his arms. He was pushing himself to the limit to command the talisman's strength. As Lin Dong continued to pour his energy into the ancestral talismans, countless black lightning chains surged out of the massive formation above, binding the colossal demon like writhing dragons of black lightning. Snap! The wolf demon general grabbed one of the chains with his massive hand and ripped it apart, his gaze shooting toward the distant light pillar. At that moment, he finally realized that these infuriating chains originated from there. Foolish thing! He roared in fury, readying another assault. But even more chains shot out from the formation, wrapping around him and immobilizing him further. Let's see who lasts longer, the wolf demon general sneered, flaring his wings and shattering chain after chain. Yet, as he broke free, fresh chains immediately bound him again, creating an eerie standoff. However, the chains were breaking faster than they could bind him. It's not enough, muttered an elder anxiously. With Lin Dong only at perfect completion of the life mystique stage, commanding so many chains is already his limit. If the wolf demon general breaks free, the formation will collapse. The other elders nodded, their faces dark with concern, but they could do nothing more. Tang Xinlian bit her lip, her gaze fixed on the figure below, veiled in black lightning. His primordial energy, it won't last much longer. After a while, another elder sighed. Almost depleted. The group watched as the black lightning chains emerged from the formation with increasing slowness, their hearts sinking. Expecting Lin Dong, at his current level, to compete in energy reserves with a demon general seemed absurd. Even with their combined support, this battle was far from simple. At the base of the light pillar, Lin Dong's previously gathered primordial energy had almost entirely dissipated, leaving his face unusually pale. One of the elders watched as the black thunder chains ceased their assault, forcing a bitter smile. Tang Xinlian bit her lip tightly, took a deep breath, and her beautiful eyes sharpened once more. Though they'd exhausted their means, under no circumstances could they allow the wolf demon general to disrupt the other battlefronts. Tang Xinlian took one more look at the base of the light pillar, then abruptly turned. Just as she was about to issue the final attack command, her pupils contracted sharply. A collective gasp rose around her. Some of the Flame Deity Palace's experts also noticed the phenomenon, their eyes widening in shock. Floating above, Tang Xinlian and the others looked on, their eyes filled with awe. Breaking through to the death mystique stage, this entails intertwining life energy with death energy, a process fraught with peril. On a battlefield like this, the slightest disturbance could break his internal balance. Hearing the murmurs around her, Tang Xinlian's brows knitted slightly. She, too, understood the risk Lindong was taking. Elders, protect him. Don't let that wolf demon general interfere, she ordered, clutching the crimson phoenix spear tightly. Yes. The elders nodded in agreement. Tang Xinlian's bright gaze focused on the base of the light pillar, where she could make out a faint, seated silhouette. Though his figure was lean and unassuming, she sensed a force that even a collapsing heaven and earth couldn't shake. Her grip on the crimson phoenix spear tightened, and a hint of seductive determination graced her lips. Above them, the countless black thunder chains entangling the wolf demon general began to break one by one. A sinister smile appeared on the general's massive face. His gaze shot toward the distant light pillar, his eyes growing cold as he sneered, attempting a breakthrough here? As the wolf demon general's sneer resounded, a surge of demonic energy gathered behind him, condensing into a massive wolf claw, 1,000 zhang in length. Golden demonic patterns adorned its surface. Stop him! Tang Xinlian's eyes grew cold as she called out sharply. 29 figures staggered back in unison, each one slightly paler. Before they could even catch their breath, the space ahead shattered once more, unleashing a torrent of dark energy that transformed into a stampede of wolves, surging toward them like a devouring storm. Tang Xinlian bit down on her lip, her fierce gaze betraying no hint of retreat. She struck the ground with her crimson phoenix red lotus spear, her cold voice rallying the strength of 28 elite Flame Deity Palace warriors as they clashed head-on with the wolf demon general. She knew Lindong needed time only she could buy him. Boom, boom, boom. The skies thundered with fierce collisions, and yet, anyone could see that Tang Xinlian and her warriors were losing ground against the wolf demon general. It was only a matter of time before they would fall. High above, the 4 divisions of the Flame Deity Palace held steady, unable to join the fray. Their role was crucial, sustaining the array to suppress the wolf demon general. Any misstep could disrupt the formation, costing them the chance to completely subdue him. Farther across the battlefield, Mulan and Elder Qiyun stole a glance at the struggle, yet neither could break away from their own formidable foes. "Ha! Looks like you'll be the first to lose," chuckled the distant figure of the King of Nether Heaven, his gaze drifting to Azure and Imo Luo nearby. With a slight smile, he raised a finger. Instantly, space at his fingertip collapsed, forming a rift tens of thousands of feet long, twisting like a black dragon, surging toward Azure and Imo Luo. Azure's eyes gleamed as he clasped his hand, and 1,000 radiant azure dragon markings erupted around him, coalescing into an ancient dragon's palm that struck fiercely against the rift. Meanwhile, Imo Luo's aura blazed into an inferno, shaping itself into a fire dragon just as massive, colliding head-on with the advancing rift. Boom! Though the clash was fierce enough to rip apart the heavens, it produced a strangely muted sound. The energies merged, twisting space into nothingness, creating a shockwave so concentrated that any warrior at the peak of the death mystique stage would be reduced to dust upon contact. Battles on this level were terrifying beyond measure. "It seems your conclusion was a bit premature," Azure smirked. Countless azure dragon markings formed beneath Azure's feet, creating an immense, ancient dragon stretching across the sky. He faced the King of Nether Heaven, his smile laced with a commanding dignity. With another terrible surge of energy, 29 figures were flung backward, their faces pale as blood spurted from their mouths, their auras fading rapidly. "That's all you've got?" The wolf demon general sneered at Tang Xinlian and her companions. Tang Xinlian didn't respond. She wiped the blood from her lip, her eyes glittering coldly as she rose once more, gripping her crimson phoenix red lotus spear, ready to meet him head-on. "Reckless girl." The wolf demon general's eyes flashed with murderous intent. He clenched his hand, conjuring a colossal black spear that pierced through the void, appearing before Tang Xinlian in a flash. Just as she was about to channel the remaining strength of her comrades to counter the blow, a sudden roar echoed from the base of a distant pillar of light. A torrent of primordial energy surged skyward like a volcanic eruption. Boom! The pillar of light instantly darkened to a shade of black lightning, channeling directly into the immense formation encompassing the heavens. The Flame Deity Palace warriors, who had been waiting for this moment, erupted with joy as they realized the arrival of this power. Could it be it worked? Tang Xinlian's gaze snapped toward the base of the pillar, where a figure sat, emanating a newfound, overpowering aura. Lin Dong had broken through to the death mystique stage. For divisions, heed my command. Power the array at full strength. A radiant smile broke across Tang Xinlian's face. Though the power of Lin Dong's Ancestral Talisman might only be a fraction of the whole formation's strength, it was the missing piece that could finally seal the Wolf Demon General. Yes. At her command, the Flame Deity Palace's 4 divisions roared in unison, each warrior pouring their primordial energy into the array. Rumble. Suddenly, the grand formation trembled, and a massive black lightning chain, 1,000 feet long, roared forth from its center. The chain was immense, covered in dark and lightning-colored patterns, with a strange power concealed within. Skywolf Demon Idol Shield. The Wolf Demon General's eyes gleamed with a cold light as he saw the black lightning chain hurtling towards him. He let out a ferocious howl towards the heavens, and a torrent of demonic energy surged forth, condensing into an enormous black shield before him. The shield bore the image of a wolf howling at the moon and a ferocious demon idol, radiating an indomitable aura. Whoosh! The black lightning chain, infused with the combined power of the 4 Flame Deity Palace armies, pierced through the air at an astonishing speed. Under countless tense gazes, it crashed heavily into the massive black shield. Clang! The deafening clash of metal rang out, and spatial cracks rippled across the sky. The onlookers watched as fissures rapidly spread across the shield. Boom! The black lightning chain, like an enraged dragon, shattered the shield and, under the Wolf Demon General's disbelieving eyes, bore through his body with a thunderous force. Sizzle! The black lightning chain coiled around the Wolf Demon General's massive frame, penetrating his body as the dark and lightning patterns seeped inside, clinging to his very bones like an unshakable curse. The overwhelming demonic energy dissipated rapidly, and the Wolf Demon General's 1,000-foot-tall body began to shrink at an alarming rate, until a pillar of light from the formation descended and enveloped him completely. The terrifying aura that had dominated the battlefield vanished entirely. High in the sky, the 4 armies stared at the Wolf Demon General, who was now completely immobilized within the pillar of light. A moment later, expressions of joy erupted across their faces, and the sound of cheers echoed throughout the heavens. They had given everything they had, and finally, they succeeded in subduing this fearsome enemy. The pillar of light descended from the sky, and within it, the black lightning chains wrapped tightly around the Wolf Demon General. These chains pierced through his body, hooking into his collarbone. From the chains, streams of dark and lightning energy continuously flowed into him, suppressing the last remnants of his demonic energy. Whoosh! The pillar of light, which soared into the clouds, gradually shrank until it was only about 30 feet tall. For spirits of the 4 symbols encircled its walls, while the black lightning chains extended from the pillar, creating a flawless seal that completely restrained the Wolf Demon General. In the sky, Tang Xinlian and the others watched the sealed Wolf Demon General. On her pale face, a relieved smile finally broke through. She could no longer hold herself upright, her body showing signs of collapse after the grueling battle that had nearly drained them of all their strength. Rustle! The 4 armies of the Flame Deity Palace collapsed in exhaustion, their disciples visibly weakened from their depleted energy reserves. Thump! Thump! Within the light-sealed pillar, the Wolf Demon General struggled frantically, his silent roars reverberating within the seal. With his demonic energy sealed, it was clear he couldn't break free. Tang Xinlian's delicate face was also pale, but despite her own exhaustion, she stood up and began issuing orders methodically, arranging rotations and rest for the four armies. Meanwhile, the top experts of the Flame Deity Palace under her command took the opportunity to restore their strength. Outside Blaze City, countless onlookers gazed at the armies of the Flame Deity Palace sweeping across the sky with a mixture of shock and respect. Even veteran experts with notable reputations in the Chaos Demon Sea couldn't help but feel a tinge of admiration as they looked at the radiant and awe-inspiring figure in the sky. Tang Xinlian's strength might not be the most formidable among the top experts of the Flame Deity Palace, but in this earth-shattering battle, it was clear that she played a pivotal role in sealing this terrifying foe. The Fire Fairy of the Flame Deity Palace, her reputation was well-deserved. The crowd marveled silently. The Flame Deity Palace has a successor now, someone with both strength and potential. Tang Xinlian, with her exceptional talent, will undoubtedly rise to become one of the palace's most formidable warriors, given enough time. When Imo Luo steps down and bestows the Flame Ancestral Talisman upon her, she will stand unchallenged, a fearsome Flame Deity Queen of Chaos Demon Sea. In midair, Tang Xinlian held the Crimson Phoenix Spear. For a moment, she was taken aback by the resounding cheers rising from beyond the city, then lowered her gaze toward Lin Dong. Exhausted, he had collapsed onto the rubble below, looking up at her with a radiant smile. With a proud grin, he gave her a thumbs up, his approval unmistakable. Even he was genuinely impressed by her performance. Seeing Lin Dong's brilliant smile, a faint blush brushed Tang Xinlian's cheeks. She understood well that Lin Dong's efforts in the battle matched hers. Yet, rather than stepping forward to claim the glory, he sat quietly in the shadows, letting all the acclaim and recognition fall upon her. He knew this victory would cement her place within the Flame Deity Palace, strengthening her path to one day leading it. This man truly was something unique. Tang Xinlian bit her lip as an indescribable feeling washed over her, a subtle warmth spreading across her face. The usual fierce and valiant Fire Fairy now looked enchantingly graceful. Leaning against the ruins, Lin Dong's chest heaved as he caught his breath, his condition evidently far from ideal. Although he'd managed to break through to the Death Mystique stage at a crucial moment, he had no time to stabilize his new level. His aura remained unsteady, teetering on the edge of falling back to the Life Mystique stage with the slightest misstep. "Brother Lin Dong, are you all right?" Mu Lingchan's small figure appeared beside him, her voice filled with concern. She alone understood what he had endured moments earlier. Lin Dong shook his head with a smile, though his pale face betrayed his weariness. Mu Lingchan frowned, realizing it was better to hold her tongue, even as worry flickered in her eyes. That alien demon general sure lived up to its name. It wasn't easy to defeat, Lin Dong murmured as he gazed distantly at the prison of light, a sense of triumph swelling within him. To face such a fearsome opponent, comparable to the Revolution stage, only a mighty figure like the Flame Deity Palace's Grandmaster of Flame could have accomplished such a feat by sacrificing his very life to seal an alien demon general in the past. Yet now, Lin Dong had done the same. While most credit belonged to the palace's full effort, he knew his contribution had been indispensable. One day, he was confident he could subdue such adversaries with his own strength alone. Just then, a striking figure descended from the sky, landing gracefully at his side. Her usually fierce eyes softened as she looked at Lin Dong with an unexpected gentleness. "Surprised to see you've got some time for yourself?" Lin Dong said with a smile as he glanced up at Tang Xinlian. "With the palace's warriors exhausted, there's little left to do. The elders can manage the rest," Tang Xinlian replied, brushing back a lock of red hair. Her voice softened. "Thank you for everything. I carry an ancestral talisman. Alien demons are my natural enemies," Lin Dong replied, shaking his head with a smile. "Besides, it's too early for thanks. We've only sealed one alien demon general. There are still two more, not to mention an even more terrifying alien demon king. That's beyond us," Tang Xinlian said with a sigh. It had taken everything just to subdue one alien demon general. They had no strength left to intervene in other battles. Lin Dong nodded. After the relentless battles, he had nothing left to give. For now, we can only rely on Master and Senior Qingji, Tang Xinlian murmured, her gaze lifting to the distant battlefield on the horizon. Well, King of Nether Heaven, it seems you're the first to lose. Qingji's voice echoed across the sky as he glanced at the ground below with a faint smile. Across from him, the King of Nether Heaven's smug expression faded slightly. He hadn't expected the Wolf Demon General to fall to the Flame Deity Palace's joint forces. Seems I underestimated your Flame Deity Palace, he muttered darkly. Imo Luo smirked, then cast a fierce look at the King of Nether Heaven. True, I can't win in a head-on clash against you two. The King of Nether Heaven sneered, his laughter edged with sarcasm. But if I wish to leave, do you think you could possibly stop me? A smooth departure might not be so easy for you today, Azure said with a faint smile. The King of Nether Heaven's eyes narrowed, but he responded with a cold chuckle. Azure, even though you've entered the reincarnation stage, who do you think you are? One of the 8 ancient lords? Those people likely fell into the cycle of reincarnation ages ago. Azure's smile remained calm as his long hair flowed freely behind him, and his eyes began to gleam. Suddenly, beneath his feet, a massive azure dragon spanned tens of thousands of feet, roaring toward the sky. It transformed into a gigantic azure disk, casting an expansive glow that dimmed the entire sky and darkened the earth below. The primordial energy in the air seemed to grow restless. High above, Mulan and Elder Qiyun, locked in combat with 2 alien demon generals, halted. The vast azure disk enveloped even them. What is this? Elder Qiyun's brow furrowed. Mulan's gaze narrowed, as if he'd realized something, and his expression subtly shifted. Standing atop the immense disk, Azure smiled toward the King of Nether Heaven in the distance. King of Nether Heaven, have you ever heard of a certain item? What? The King of Nether Heaven gave the enormous azure disk a cursory glance, replying flatly, the King Annihilation Disk. In an instant, the King of Nether Heaven's pupils constricted, and the space behind him shattered. For the first time, a trace of fear crossed his face. Clearly, the mention of the King Annihilation Disk had struck genuine terror. Ranked 6th on the relics of the ancients, the King Annihilation Disk? Imo Luo echoed in shock. It was evidently news even to him. Yes, after years of searching, I finally found it in an ancient battlefield. Azure nodded with a smile. A hint of excitement flashed in Imo Luo's eyes. Even in ancient times, the King Annihilation Disk was a fearsome relic, known for its power to annihilate king-grade alien demons. But, Imo Luo frowned as a thought crossed his mind. As I recall, to elevate the King Annihilation Disk to a level that could slay an alien demon king, it requires the support of 4 ancestral talismans. Azure smiled and nodded in agreement. But with only the 2 ancestral talismans held by Lin Dong, that makes 3. Azure shook his head, eyes fixed on Imo Luo. No, we have 4. 4. Imo Luo was stunned, staring at Azure in bewilderment before exclaiming, You mean, you've obtained another ancestral talisman? But why haven't I sensed it? Of the 8 ancestral talismans, none are easily found, and each is hard to master. Not everyone is as fortunate as you or Lin Dong, Azure replied, shaking his head with a touch of resignation. Then, Imo Luo's brow furrowed, wondering where this 4th ancestral talisman could possibly be. A streak of light descended from the sky. Mulan and Elder Qiyun appeared beside Azure, taking in the massive, heaven-encompassing azure disk. After a moment's hesitation, Mulan asked, You're planning to use that? Yes. The alien demon king represents the pinnacle of their strength. Since we've encountered one today, it must be eliminated. Azure's eyes narrowed, a lethal determination flashing within them. Alien demon kings were the equivalent of reincarnation stage powerhouses among humans. Losing one would be a tremendous blow to their side. Given their usual elusiveness, finding one was rare. This opportunity couldn't be missed. But it's said that the King Annihilation Disk requires the support of 4 ancestral talismans to reach the level needed to kill an alien demon king, Elder Qiyun said, hesitating slightly. Indeed, This relic was forged by Lord of the Ancestral Talisman himself. During the Great Catastrophe, he channeled the power of all 8 ancestral talismans into the King Annihilation Disc, covering the heavens with its light and slaying 8 alien demon kings in a single blow, Azure recounted, before looking at Mulan. And as for the 4th ancestral talisman, we'll need to consult Brother Mulan. Both Emo Luo and Elder Qiyun turned to Mulan, whose expression grew complex as he cast a glance toward the ground. There, a petite figure stood faintly visible. My immortal sacred whale clan does indeed possess an ancestral talisman. At these words, both Emo Luo and Elder Qiyun were astonished. It was clearly news to them. Which of the 8 ancestral talismans does your clan hold? Emo Luo asked, his tone serious. After a pause, Mulan replied softly, the life and death ancestral talisman. Emo Luo's pupils contracted, his voice trembling slightly. There is no such thing as true eternity in this world. Even someone as powerful as the Lord of the Ancestral Talisman eventually dissolves back into the universe, let alone an ancestral talisman born from the world itself, Mulan remarked with a bitter smile. The Lord of Life and Death, one of the 8 ancient lords, was indeed our immortal sacred whale clan's ancestor. When she fell in battle, heavily injured, our clan placed her remains in the deepest parts of the Chaos Demon Sea. But 100 years ago, during a memorial visit, we discovered a strange light emanating from the grave. We opened it hurriedly and found a black and white shining egg while the ancestors' remains vanished, along with the life and death ancestral talisman. Mulan's gaze fixed on the petite figure on the ground and said, later, the light egg was secretly nurtured by our clan, and from it, a little girl emerged. Emo Luo gasped. Could it be that girl, Lingshan? Yes. Mulan nodded slightly. This? Elder Qiyun hesitated before asking, so, is this girl actually your immortal sacred whale clan's ancestor, or the life and death ancestral talisman? Mulan gave a wry smile, an inscrutable expression on his face. It should be the life and death ancestral talisman, interjected Qingji, glancing at Mulan. Back then, the life and death lord was gravely injured. Though she attempted reincarnation, she failed, thus her being completely dissipated. The Lingshan we see, emerging from the egg, is actually the life and death ancestral talisman. How can an ancestral talisman take human form? Elder Qiyun asked incredulously. Ancestral talismans all possess a spirit, though it's exceedingly rare for them to manifest in human form. Even Lingshan herself isn't aware that she is indeed the life and death ancestral talisman. While our ancestor fell, there was evidently a mystical fusion with the ancestral talisman, paving the way for Lingshan's birth, Mulan explained. Now, Lingshan possesses the body of the immortal sacred whale clan, yet she is also the life and death ancestral talisman. This transformation is certainly unprecedented in the world. Emo Luo nodded in astonishment, realizing the hidden secret of the immortal sacred whale clan. Stroking his chin, he remarked, in this light, it's no wonder she gets along so well with Lin Dong, likely due to the devouring ancestral talisman. Qingji chuckled and added, it's said that during ancient times, the 8 ancestral talismans came into being, with the life and death ancestral talisman appearing last. Being weak, it was absorbed by the devouring ancestral talisman to sustain it until it matured enough to break free. Elder Qiyun's expression turned peculiar, noting the relationship somewhat resembled the devouring ancestral talisman nurturing the life and death ancestral talisman. And what does that make their relationship? He pondered aloud. With a bitter smile, Mulan replied, in those ancient times, our ancestor, the Lord of Life and Death, had a rather complex relationship with the devouring lord. Those who wield ancestral talismans are inevitably influenced by them to some extent. Emo Luo nodded, as someone who understood the intricacies of being an ancestral talisman master. However, this information must not be leaked. Although Lingshan is the life and death ancestral talisman, her powers are yet to awaken. If the alien demons were to find out, it would spell trouble, Mulan cautioned. Rest assured, activating the King Annihilation Disc only requires the support of 4 ancestral talismans. Their actual power won't be used, and I'll employ the force of reincarnation to ensure none but us knows, Qingji assured. Hearing this, Mulan nodded in agreement. With the explanation complete, Qingji said no more. With a wave of his hand, the azure disk that enveloped the heavens started rotating slowly. Within, it was like an endless sea. The azure light shimmered, quietly gathering a cataclysmic power. Elsewhere, in the sky, the king of Netherheaven and two other alien demon generals watched with heavy expressions. The reputation of the King Annihilation Disc was one they clearly took seriously. Humph. While the King Annihilation Disc is powerful, it needs Ancestral Talisman for potency. There's just the flame Ancestral Talisman here. Killing this king is but a fool's dream. The King of Netherheaven snorted, dark energy swirling in his gaze as he unfurled his wings, their purple-gold patterns blotting the sky. From afar, as Qingji's hand clenched, a massive azure light disc quivered slightly. From its core, layers of azure light withdrew, and a flash of azure light shot skyward, transforming into a small azure jade disc. It hovered like a brilliant full moon, crystal clear and stunningly beautiful. Mo Luo. Upon the emergence of the ancient azure jade disc, Qingji's gaze turned to Mo Luo, who nodded heavily in response. A fiery symbol between his brows blazed instantly, launching a crimson flame into the sky, striking the azure jade disc. Buzz. With just the blessing of a mere flame ancestral talisman, you dare claim to vanquish the king? The king of Netherheaven scoffed, his gaze filled with disdain. However, Azure Phoenix paid no heed to his taunts. Calmly, he closed his eyes, and an imperceptible wave of energy began to emanate from the azure disk in his hand. Amid the ruins of the city below, Lin Dong looked up at the sky, where a vast azure disk loomed, shrouding everything from view. The scene on the disk's surface was now obscured, and the entire surrounding heavens dimmed as if all light had retreated. What? Lin Dong's gaze sharpened as he sensed a peculiar fluctuation spread through the air, encompassing him. Encased within this strange ripple, he felt a faint tremor resonate from the two ancestral talismans within him. Lin Dong, relax. I'll be borrowing the power of the ancestral talismans to strike down the king of Netherheaven. As Lin Dong's expression shifted in surprise, Azure Phoenix's voice echoed in his ears, calming him. Lin Dong took a deep breath and relinquished his hold on the ancestral talismans within. With his resistance dispelled, shadows and lightning abruptly surged from his body before vanishing in a blink. Incredible, Lin Dong murmured, impressed. He could feel the thunder ancestral talisman and the devouring ancestral talisman within him momentarily weaken, their strength seemingly drawn away. While marveling at this power, Lin Dong suddenly sensed an unusual fluctuation nearby. He turned his head swiftly, only to be startled. Mu Lingshan's small form was now radiating an eerie black and white light. Big brother Lin Dong, Azure Phoenix said he needs my power. Mu Lingshan's large eyes looked weary, and before she could finish, she stumbled forward. Lin Dong caught her just as she collapsed into his arms. Yet as his hand touched her glowing figure, his expression changed. An indescribable surge of energy, pure and overwhelming, began flooding into him like a tidal wave. This energy, rich in the essence of life and death, flowed flawlessly as if perfectly intertwined. Lin Dong, momentarily stunned, held Mu Lingshan close. His previously depleted primordial energy was now refilling, brimming with vitality from this intense life and death essence, which flowed freely from her into him with no resistance. This is... Puzzled, Lin Dong looked down at the delicate figure in his arms. As he did, he noticed something startling. A black and white rune gradually emerging on Mu Lingshan's smooth forehead.